Hey y'all, it's Anna Kennedy with Empower Yoga. We are located in Marietta, Georgia. So we have just really gotten this kind of stay in place order. So we're right smack dab in the middle of quarantine. And we've been posting a lot of online content, a lot of online classes going live. And the overwhelming response is like, oh, great, but there's a lot of people saying, look, I want to try yoga. This is the time that I'm going to start something new. And we also partnered with Barre Method, a couple Barre Method studios, and we're going to be posting these videos to their members also. And I know that you might not have been exposed to power yoga before, and maybe haven't. But before you take my live class, I thought that I would give a couple of like tips, tricks, ideas about power yoga, because sometimes when I teach, I can be intense. I'll just say it. I can be intense. I like loud music and I like to kick your butt. That is like part of like yoga for me is movement with breath, but also doing challenging, hard things is what like fills my cup. So that's how I teach. And so yeah, before you guys take my live class and I completely scare you away, I thought I'd do a little kind of tutorial to begin with. Sound good? Also, if you know me, music and playlists are like my jam, my thing. Like Eminem is in every single one of my playlists. And turns out all of it's copyrighted. Today I've got copyright free music. That being said, I don't know what's going to come up. It's like not my choice, not my favorite, but it is what it is. And we're just doing the best that we can, right? Okay. So let's get started. You're new to yoga or maybe not. Maybe you just want to like go back into your fundamentals, but yeah, here we go. So something to keep in mind though, is that there are so many different schools of thought when it comes to yoga. So I'm going to give you my beliefs and the way that I believe that these postures are supposed to be kind of like aligned. But please know that I am in no way the expert. There are so many differing opinions and it's okay. So, all right, let's get started. So we typically start yoga in like I start my classes in what's called child's pose. And the beginning of class is a time to start to breathe. And I know you breathe all day, every day, right? Got it. But this is, we typically breathe without thinking about it and without being intentional about it. So the first part of class is to get into that intentional breath, which what it does is hopefully instead of you worrying about like your to-do list or what you're going to do later or what kind of cool foods you're going to make today or what kind of homeschool you're going to do with your kids, it brings you into the present moment. Because when you're in the present moment, it's all okay. So child's pose is going to be where you have your big toes to touch. Well, let me take off my slippers. Okay, so you're on your mat. You take your big toes to touch, your knees wide, right? And then you sit your hips back onto your heels. And your hips may or may not reach your heels. Totally fine, right? And then you reach your arms forward and you place your forehead on the ground, right? And while you're here, you breathe in and out through your nose and become super intentional with your breath. So you focus all of your being on it. So you don't even focus on that dog that's up on my stairs whining. You don't focus on, like I said, your to-do list or things you got going on later. It's the right here, the right now, and you start to connect to your body. Beautiful. Okay, downward facing dog, one of our staple poses. We're in downward facing dog a lot. Also, just really quickly about the things that I'm going to teach you today are going to be a lot of the standing poses as well as what a vinyasa is, which is kind of a staple of power yoga. But yeah, there's that. And if any of these sound like different languages, like I'm speaking something crazy, then some of it is in a different language. And all you have to do is practice and you'll get it and you'll be just fine. All right, so downward facing dog. You take your hands, you spread them super wide. So like this, these fingers Not cool. Spread them wide, because like see this wrist, your wrist is there's like all these small tiny bones, right? So we want to put some of the weight of your body and your fingers versus just your wrist. Okay, so you spread your fingers wide and you place them, you kind of turn them so that your index finger faces forward versus your middle finger, because see what happens to my elbows when that happens? So if I lead with my middle finger, my elbows splay out. If I lead with my index fingers, my elbows pull back in and they're aligned with my shoulders. So take them, I like mine about the width of my mat, but that's preference. And you tuck your toes and lift your hips up and back, right? So you kind of look like an upside down V. I'll show you from the side also. So spread your fingers wide, tuck your toes, lift your hips up and back. Okay, and you can have a little water in your knees, right? And you lift your tailbone up towards the ceiling. And a lot of people tend to, put their weight like forward. See how much weight's in my shoulders? Like press back. So you get this long line. Now people are like, hey, do your heels need to touch the ground? No, they can, but it's just like, it's the intention of reaching your heels towards the floor. They may or may not go. Cool, that's downward facing dog. Okay, plank pose. Yeah, so same thing. You just have your hands right where they were and you rock forward. So you stack your shoulders on top of your wrists. I'll go from the side on this one, right? I need to go further back so you can see. Okay, so tuck your toes. Now here's the deal. Oh, this Paw Patrol couch, get it out of the way. Okay, so shoulders on top of your wrists. Pull your belly in and up, squeeze your legs. You send your gaze to the top edge of your mat. And you actually press down through your hands, so you actually dome out between your shoulder blades just a bit. Plank pose. If it feels uncomfortable, you're probably in the right place, right? Modification for plank is gonna be, you can just drop your knees. This is perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, now baby cobra. So go ahead and lower all the way down to your mat. A cobra, baby cobra is gonna be where you lift your chest, just a little bit, right? Your feet can come towards each other. So that's a baby cobra. A bigger cobra, you come up a little higher. And then king cobra, you take your thumbs to the top edges of your mat and lift your entire chest. Beautiful, okay? And then you wanna try and relax your glutes on those. Yeah, so don't squeeze that. All right, so those are your back bends, those are your cobra. Here's another one, locust pose. So you take your hands, interlace them behind your back. You send your gaze to the top edge of your mat and you lift your entire body. Well, except for your hips, your heels, your thighs, your chest. Super cool. Release. Okay, so how I start my classes is I do a down dog, and this is my warm up, right? So we start with breath, and then you start to move and get warm. And I do like this down dog to a plank to your back bends. And then we move forward to sun salutations. Now this is big, okay? Because it's how you get warm. It's how you do your movement with breath. That is what vinyasa means. So a sun salutation, sun A, which is the one that I typically start with, right? You can have your feet to touch. You don't have to. Any lower back problems is you can take them shoulder width apart. But mountain pose, you stand up and you reach up. Yes, I can reach my ceiling. That's, I live in like a 1950s house, which I freaking love. But in the basement, we have this really short ceiling. But mountain, okay? And then forward fold, you fold towards your shins, right? Now here, it doesn't matter if you can touch your toes, friends. It doesn't matter, all right? What matters here is that you're supported. So if you can touch your toes, it's fine. Or touch the floor, but put a little water in your knees. You can always bend your knees a lot. You still are getting a hamstring stretch right here. So forward fold, and then a halfway lift. So you take your hands to your shins or your thighs, and you go, like you get this flat back. You draw your shoulder blades back, and you look forward. It's called a flat back. And then forward fold, right? And then mountain rise all the way up. Forward fold, right? Halfway lift, forward fold. Now let's move with breath. Inhale, mountain. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. exhale, fold. Inhale, mountain, exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, exhale, forward fold. Mountain, breathe in, and pause. Okay, so that's like a half sun salutation. You're doing great so far, so let's add on. Okay, so you do this mountain, forward fold, right? Halfway lift, plank pose, you step back. Okay, so sideways, so you're back in this plank pose. Now chaturanga, there's lots of different options here, but chaturanga, what it looks like is you rock forward slightly and you lower halfway down, right? You look forward and you kind of pause there. Elbows are tight, and then pull your chest through your arms, upward facing dog. So your thighs are off the ground. Downward facing dog. Beautiful. Okay, so let's try that again. Rock forward to a plank pose. Chaturanga, lower halfway. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Okay, now let's talk modifications. Because it took me years to really feel like I was doing a chaturanga completely right. And I'm still not even sure I'm doing it completely right, but it feels really good in my body, okay? So it took me a long time to gain that strength. Couple options. If your chaturanga looks something like, if you're getting there and you're like, like your hips are dropping, no big deal. Modification, drop your knees, lower halfway, and then pull your chest through. So this is a cobra. Your thighs are on the ground. And then you tuck your toes, downward facing dog. That's a beautiful modification. Why not do that? So, but the point of this is that your elbows stay close to your body. So if I'm looking forward to you, it's down here, okay? Your elbows aren't splayed out wide. Now, what was I gonna say? What was my train of thought? Who knows? Okay, but if you have shoulder issues, if that bothers your shoulders, just stay in a plank and go to downward facing dog, okay? But this is that's the meat of a vinyasa. So what it looks like, all put together, your sun A. Oh, I do remember my train of thought. This is what you get when you get a video with me. Your shoulders, right? A lot of people, you don't have to lower super far. We actually don't want your shoulders below your elbows, if that makes sense. So any of this stuff, that's too far, right? Your shoulders stay above your elbows. Okay, so a sun salutation, all put together. After you go to downward facing, Tucker, yeah, you can hear my dog, come here. This is my dog, welcome. He wants to go upstairs. So instead, I'm gonna let him out. So he stops whining. Okay, so after you go to your downward facing dog, you're gonna step or jump to the top of your mat. Okay, step is just fine. All right, so put all together. Goes mountain. So you move with your breath and then forward fold. All right, halfway lift, plank pose, step back. All right, chaturanga, any version you've got, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Now you lift your heels, look forward, step up or jump to the top of your mat. So you land in a forward fold, halfway lift, lengthen, forward fold, mountain. That's a sun A. Look at you. Who would have thought you could have done that today? I mean, I knew that you were going to. Okay, so let's do it together. Ready? Mountain. And then forward fold. All right, halfway lift, plank pose, chaturanga, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Lift your heels, look forward, top of your mat, step or jump. Halfway lift, forward fold, mountain. Okay, so how I do my classes is that I do 4, 5, 6 of those to make sure that you are warm. Sound good? Now I'm gonna go to a couple standing poses just so you know what they are. And then you're gonna be so ready to take my class. I can't wait. I can't wait to see you. Okay, so let's start with warriors. By the way, if you know me, you've heard me say this. Why is it that every pharmaceutical commercial you ever see, they're only doing warriors or tree poses? So it's that's the only yoga pose that exists. And why are all, like every pharmaceutical commercial, they're doing yoga? I mean, that's great. I appreciate it. But anyways, side note. All right, so warrior one. So from my typical kind of classes, you're gonna come from a downward facing dog to get to your standing poses most of the time. So if you're in down dog, right, you step your right foot to the top of your mat, spin your back heel down. Okay, so your back heel, it's kind of at like 10 o'clock if I were on a clock. Yeah. Okay, so the point of this particular pose is for your hips to be facing forward, but the reality is a lot of us don't have that kind of flexibility, right? So I like to take my feet wide. So my right foot towards the right edge of my mat, left foot towards the left edge, right? You bend into your right knee a whole lot and you press down through the pinky edge of your left foot. You draw your right hip back, left hip forward, and then both arms go up. So from the side, look a little, yeah, so you want to get that deep bend, and then you reach up. Okay, a note about your fingertips. All of your movements need to be intentional. So even fingers, like let's be energetic with our fingers. Because if you think about it, like reach up, reach up, reach up, but have these floppy fingers, that's not cool. All right, so warrior one, right? That's gonna be back heel down, your toes are pointed towards 10 o'clock-ish, right leg forward, hips squared to the front of your mat, and you reach up. Warrior two, a little bit different with your hips, so it's an open hip. Your back foot, still the pinky edge of your left foot is down. Well, this is if you're on your right side. But toes point more towards, what is that, like 9 o'clock? I guess? Okay, so you bend into your right knee a lot, but now your hips are facing the side of your mat. They're parallel to the edge. And then reach both arms, like you reach forward and you reach back. Now, also, this is better. So again, back leg, press back, right leg, it's pretty parallel if possible, if that's in your flexibility. Pull your belly in and up, you reach your arms front and back. Now a lot of people try to reach forward, forward, forward. Stack your shoulders on top of your hips. Now if you're wearing your shoulders like earrings, relax those guys down. And your gaze goes over your right middle finger. Again, if you're on your right side. If you're like crumpling your front toes, relax those guys, please. So that's a warrior two. Oh my gosh, Yogi, you're killing it. Okay, so now from your warrior two, let's talk reverse warrior. That's gonna be where you flip your front palm and you stretch up and back towards, I don't know, the back of your mat. Your left hand can go onto your left thigh, or it can wrap around towards your right hip, and you stretch up and back. Gaze goes up towards the ceiling. Now a lot of people want to straighten your leg here. Let's not do that. Yeah, you stay there, and you stretch up and back. Gorgeous. 3 standing poses. Killing it, friends. Okay, so again, those are all on your right side. You can obviously like switch sides. Go to your left side. Go warrior one. And go warrior two. And reverse warrior. This is more of a tutorial, so I'm not super worried about you being like imbalanced today. All right, so let's move on. Extended side angle. I'm actually gonna see if I can turn my video. Is this how it works? Can I do this? Can I get a wider shot? But now my head's gone. Okay, anyways. All right, so go into your warrior two. That's not gonna work out because you can't see my feet. We're just doing the best that we can on this quarantine life, aren't we? Okay, extended side angle. I'll move my camera back in a moment, but just for this particular posture, your right forearm can go onto your right thigh. You stretch your left arm up and over your ear. So it's like this really long line from your left heel to your left fingertips. Yeah, left heel to left fingertips. You can also take your right hand down to the floor or towards a block, but notice if your shoulders start to kind of collapse, open your shoulders back up. So you want your chest to be broad. Going back, that's an extended side angle. So do it on your left side too. And notice that like some of your postures are gonna feel different on your right than your left. Like from my right side, my hip is much more open. My left side is very like almost get stuck a little bit here. Like this is difficult for me to get this far. So my extended side angle, I stay right here. But if you are, if you're using your forearm, try not to dump into your forearm. It's actually like you're pressing your thigh away so that you are engaging your obliques and your core. You're not just dumping into your joints. Extended side angle. Awesome. Now let's move on to some balancing stuff. Again, just so you know, right? Tree pose. This is gonna be where you take your foot to the inside of your thigh. You can also take your foot to the inside of your calf or to the floor. See that? Look at that. Arms up. You can have any kind of arm variation that works for you. Tree pose. Do it on both sides. If you're right now, if you're like, my balance sucks, okay, please try not to judge yourself, because balance, it changes every single day. It depends on, some people say it depends on like the moon cycle. I have no idea. But I know that like if you've been sick, your balance changes. If you might have drank a little bit the night before, if you're on carpet, everything changes. So try not to, at any point during this time, if you say like, I'm not good at yoga, I'm gonna need you to stop that kind of talk. There's no such thing as like good at yoga. No such thing. All right, moving back on. So that's tree pose. Now an airplane is gonna be where you stand on one leg, right? And your palms go back by your side and you kick one leg back. Now with your palms, so again, intentional. You press down through your palms to like lift your chest just a bit. Yeah, and you draw your shoulder blade tips to touch and your back leg. I don't know that you can see my back leg right now, but it's completely engaged. So your back leg flexed and you try and square your hips towards the floor. Airplane pose. Now, warrior 3 is gonna be the exact same thing, except your arms are gonna go forward. If your shoulders don't do that, don't worry about it. Okay, those are 2 balancing poses I'll give you today. Make sure and do them on both sides, that's fine. So that's airplane and warrior 3. Now, keep in mind there are many, many other yoga postures. Actually, I'm gonna give you half moon too. So many more, but this is just like kind of a warm up to what power yoga looks like. Half moon, one of my freaking favorite postures. I'm gonna use my water bottle as a prop, as a block. But so this is, half moon is gonna be like if I'm facing the front of my mat, you turn your right toes towards the front, okay? And then you kind of take your right hand onto your like block, a yoga block if you need, or a water bottle or something, and you lift your left foot. Flex and activate your left foot. Your left toes go towards the edge of your mat, and then you lift your left arm up towards the ceiling, and then maybe your gaze goes too. So from the side, I know that wasn't a great angle, but from the side, it looks a little something like, again, golly, my video skills are perfect. Don't get my head or my feet. But that's a half moon. There's lots of variations of half moon. You can like start to float your right hand. Now, a lot of people will try and not use a block, and that's okay. You take your right hand to the floor. And I actually have, like, this is difficult for me because my hips aren't able to open, right? So if I'm here, I'm collapsing just a little bit. So that's why I like to use a block, because I'm not collapsing. So if you get into this posture and your right hand's on the ground or your left hand and you feel like you're collapsing, then find something to like bring the floor up to you. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with using props. I love a prop. It just sweetens your practice. It doesn't mean like you're not good at yoga. Again, that doesn't exist. Okay, half moon. Let's talk a couple more standing poses. Triangle posture. So triangle, again, if I'm towards the front of my mat, so say you're coming from a warrior 2 stance. Remember that warrior 2? Then you straighten your right leg. I'll have to go make another video with like all left side stuff. Anyways, you like reach forward so you get length in your right side, and then you take your hand down to your, like a block again would be great, or a shin, or your water bottle, and you stretch your left arm up towards the ceiling. Okay, again, if you have your hand on anything, it's more of a lift and you're just using it as like support. So that's what it looks like. So you open your left hip up and your right hip goes underneath. Triangle pose. Wide leg forward fold. It's exactly what it sounds like. You take your legs wide and you fold in between your legs. And you can take your hands above head, interlace. You can take your hands behind you. Yeah, you rock some of the weight to the balls of your feet. Okay, so that's the standing poses I'm going to give you today. You're so ready for the first part of my class. At any point, I'll just say that my power yoga, I like to make you uncomfortable. Like I said, I like to kick your butt. If someone curses in my class, I consider it like a win for the day. Like I did it. But so that being said, I like to make you uncomfortable and make it hard, because if you can do, and not all of my classes are super hard. This isn't meant to scare anybody by any means. But if you start to believe and do hard things like on your mat, you know you can do hard things in life. Like it's just a confidence builder. And I believe in you. I wouldn't ask you to do anything that I don't believe that you can do. I just wouldn't do it. I like to challenge you and show you that you can do it. That being said, there's a difference between discomfort and pain. At any time during any of these postures, if you're like, ow, stop doing whatever that is. Okay? So like, ow, like sharp shooting pain, anything, don't do it. Yoga is not meant to injure you. So I'm kind of like like the waves lady. Like I'm going to tell you postures and give you ideas of what to do. But you don't have to listen to me. If something does not feel right in your body, man, don't do it. Do something different. We all have, like, our bodies tell stories, right? We've all had injuries or tightness certain places. The way that we walk, it's just every single body is different, but every single body can do yoga. It just might look a little different. That's the beauty of it. Golly, I don't know how many people are watching this video, but I can guarantee you we're all doing the same thing, but it looks different in every single one of us. Okay. Back bends. Two main back bends I'd like to talk to you about. Bridge or wheel. Bridge is going to be where you lay onto your back. Lay onto your back. And you take your knees, your feet about shoulder width apart. Knees up towards the ceiling. And you take your heels kind of close to your body. And lift your hips up towards the ceiling. Right? You can take your hands interlace them behind your back. Or you can just leave them kind of down. Right? You draw your shoulder blades underneath your body so that there's no weight on your neck at all. And your chest goes up towards your chin, but your chin doesn't necessarily come towards your chest. Make sense? So you press the back of your head into the mat, and so the chin is nice and long, up towards the ceiling. Yeah, bridge pose. Beautiful. Now, wheel. If you have a particularly tight shoulders, wheel might not be for you, but wheel is something that I had to work up to. But you take your hands, your fingertips back behind your shoulders, right? I like to, like I said, back bends are not super easy for me. So I take my hands wider than shoulder width apart, but you press through your hands, you press through your feet, and you lift your body, right? Your head drops back, and that's your wheel. You use your feet and you use your hands. If you kind of get up and don't go super far, don't worry about it. It's something to work up to if your back allows it. Yeah. And after you do back bends, it's very important that you stay for a moment and let your back reset. So how I reset most of the time is Supta Baddha Konasana. So you take the soles of your feet together, your knees wide, and you lay down. So it looks like a butterfly on your back. And the premise behind it, anyways, like you're gaining flexibility in your back when you do a back bend. Most of us don't do back bends like all day, every day. It's not just like one of our core movements, I guess. So you're bending it to gain flexibility. But if you immediately like pull your knees into your chest, which rounds your spine the opposite direction, think about like a credit card. If you bend it one way and bend it another way, like real fast, like it can snap. Now, please don't take me, like, I'm not saying your back will snap. Please don't hear that from me. I actually wish I could go and edit this video and take that out, because that's not what I'm saying. But we need to let your back reset before you go and do something different. Because most of us want to like curl into this ball after back bends, and just don't let your back reset and come back to neutral. Sound good? Okay, now after you do that, then we come to some like juicy stretches. Pigeon pose. Holy moly, my favorite. A lot of people's favorites. But what pigeon looks like is, here, let's get into it from like standing on your knees. You step your right foot forward, and then you can kind of support yourself. Walk your right foot all the way over to the left edge of your mat, and your right knee comes down. Oh, let me come back a little bit. Okay, and then you walk your left foot way, way, way back. You puff up your chest. So if you notice, my right knee is going diagonal. It's not coming straight out of my right hip. It's going out towards the side. So I try and square my hips. Now this, if you feel this in your right glute, you're in the right spot, okay? If your knee hurts, I'm about to give you a modification, okay? I don't want your knee to hurt, no joint issues, right? But if you feel good here, then you can fold forward and come onto your forehead or towards your forearms, something like that. If your right foot, if you're here and your foot starts to go numb, don't worry, you're fine. You're fine. You're not gonna stay here long enough to do any damage to your foot by losing. Yeah. Okay, so figure 4 is the modification for that posture. So what happens is you cross your right ankle over your left knee, reach through, grab your left thigh. This is the exact same posture, but on your back. Pigeon, that feels good, right? Okay, so make sure you do it on both sides. You can pause me, all the things. Yeah, let's go to, I think that a lot of people, I'll just go really quickly over some of the I guess, words, right? Baddha Konasana, or butterfly. You take your heels close to you and you allow your knees to fall wide, and maybe you fold. Maybe. If you want more of a lower back stretch, you kick your heels forward and fold. Okay, that's butterfly. A double pigeon is gonna be, let's see, double pigeon. Extend your right leg forward, grab your left leg, your left ankle, take it up and over your right knee, and then lean back so that you take your right ankle underneath your left knee. And take your right heel away from your glutes, and maybe you fold here. Now, if your knee is up like mine, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. That means that you have tight hips. And if it's up in your chest, no big deal. Everything's fine. People are saying, people often ask me, where am I supposed to feel this one? You're supposed to feel it kind of like right now in your left hip. But if your right hip is tight too, you're going to feel it in your hip flexor area, like right there in that crease. Fullest expression would be like knees flat and you fold over your legs. Listen, I was born this way. I'm working towards flexibility, but it's okay. People often say like, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible. Friends, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. Doing something like this though, if you notice that your femur, this big thigh bone, it's rotated in your hip socket in a way that you probably don't do all the time. So this is keeping your hips nice and healthy. So this is a beautiful, beautiful posture. So that's double pigeon. Double pigeon on the other side is your left shin down, your right ankle up and over, and again you fold. So it's double pigeon. Forward fold. You extend both feet forward, and then remove the flesh from underneath your sits bones. Stretch your arms up, pull your belly in and up, and then you fold. You may reach your feet. Cool. You may reach your shins. Cool. You might reach your knees. Awesome. All of it is awesome. So you grab what you can grab. You can put a little water in your knees so you can bend your knees a little bit if you need, and you fold. But pull your belly in and up. So that's going to be a forward fold. Moving on to inversions. Yeah, there's headstands, handstands, all those things. But the two inversions I'd like to talk to you about today, one is shoulder stand. Some people refer to it as like candlestick, but shoulder stand, please keep in mind it's called a shoulder stand, not a neck stand. So shoulder stand is going to be where you kind of roll onto your shoulders and then lift your feet all the way up towards the ceiling. Now, we say don't turn your head in this pose because, you know, there's some weight on the back of your head. But yeah, so try not to do that. But you take your hands grab your hips, right? And then you can walk your elbows closer towards each other, and all of the weight is on my elbows. It's not in my neck. Well, that is a shoulder stand. So if you feel this in your neck, like your cervical spine, let's not do it. And then you can pull your knees down by your ears, and you roll out of it safely. The last inversion is called waterfall. That's where you stick your feet up towards the ceiling. You can take your hands underneath your hips to support yourself, or look, there's a wall right there. You can go over to the wall and lift your feet up. P.S. If you have trouble sleeping, do legs up the wall before bed. It slows your heart rate. So, and people say it's good for sleeping. So those are your inversions. And then twisting. I'm gonna untie my shirt. I can't be on my back. Like that. So twist. You pull your knees. So a supine twist is you take your arms out into a T or to a goalpost, knees bent towards your chest, and then you can drop your knees to the left. And your gaze goes to the right. And then you switch sides. Drop your knees to the other side. And turn your head to the left. And you pull your knees back up through center. Happy baby. So happy baby is where you grab the outsides of your feet or your shins, whatever is accessible. Send your feet up towards the ceiling. And then you drop your knees down by your rib cage. Well, towards your rib cage. They may or may not go. And then this last posture is possibly the most important posture that you've done all day. It's called Shavasana. It translates to corpse pose, which means you just lay down. You lay down, and a lot of people find this to be like the most difficult pose of them all, because how often are we just still? So Shavasana.